Hi everyone, my name's Hazel and I'm an author and a PhD student, and in today's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different because I'm going to be teaching you Hangul, which is the Korean alphabet, but we're going to be doing it in a bit of a different way in that I'm going to use the 13 members of 17 to teach it to you instead of just teaching you the alphabet like it is. So first of all, am I Korean? No, I'm British, I'm not Korean. However, am I fluent in Korean? Also no. However, am I good at reading and writing Hangul? Yes, I am. I've been learning Korean for 3 and a bit years, and while my speaking and listening ability leaves a lot to be desired, my reading and writing ability for Korean is pretty decent, in my opinion. And most of the Korean I know was taught to me by one of my best friends. She's not Korean either, but her fiance is Korean, and she usually spends a lot of time in the summer when we're off from university in Korea. Obviously not at the minute because of the pandemic. I'm not sure my friend would describe herself as fluent in Korean, but I think her Korean is pretty good. So me and my friend, we met at university, and after I helped her with an assignment she was behind on, she, as to say thank you, she made me like a booklet that assigned a character in Hangul to each of the 17 members to help me remember it, because I'm kind of like a visual learner, very much a visual learner, so it really helped a lot for me. And I asked her permission. I said, am I okay to do this video? She said yes, of course you are. However, she didn't want me to name her in the video, so she said she would like to be referred to as the anonymous Korean teaching buddy. So if you watch this video and find it helpful, please leave a comment below thanking the anonymous Korean teaching buddy. She's really good at teaching Korean, and I miss her a lot because I haven't seen her in literally a year now because of the pandemic. So I'm going to use a whiteboard for this and also put pictures on the screen at the same time. However, I would, just before we carry on with this video, a bit of a disclaimer. Like I said before, my Korean speaking and listening is not the best, so please kind of try and ignore the way I pronounce the characters because I'm not the best at it. I will link below some resources or where you can listen to people actually pronouncing them properly. This video is more so for the explanation and memorization of Hangul. So we're going to start off with the consonants first, then we're going to do the vowels, then we're going to do combined vowels, then we're going to do like the structure of each syllable in words when you write it down, and then we're going to finish off with learning how to write each of the 17 members' stage names and real names in Hangul. So yeah, I think that was everything, so let's get started. Okay, so overall in Hangul there are 24 characters, so really not that many. I think that's less than in the British alphabet, or the English alphabet should I say, which is 26? I can't even remember. And 14 of those characters in Korean are consonants, so we're going to start there first. And you can, if you put in enough effort, you can learn all Hangul in one day. However, don't beat yourself up too much if you can't learn it in one day. I didn't learn it in one day. It took me a couple of weeks just because of who I am as a person. So is it possible to learn in one day? Yes. Should you feel bad if you can't learn it in one day? No. Don't be too hard on yourself. If you can't do it in one day, that's fine. Everyone works and memorises things at a different pace, so don't be too hard on yourself. Also, just a quick note before we carry on, some of these characters have a bit of a tenuous link to each of the 17 members, so try not to think about it too much. It's more of a visual thing, knowing this member relates to that character than having like a proper reason. Some of them do have really good reasons, some of them don't, but there's usually a cool picture to go with it, so don't worry about it. It's more of like a visual thing than like a proper thing. I told my friend when she made this booklet for me that she could literally say that this character is this member's favourite character of Hangul, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I remember that. Okay, so the first consonant in Hangul is giok, which looks like this, and it's like a G/K sound. So we're gonna assign this character to Hoshi, and my friend made a funny picture of him where the giok character kind of looks like dancing legs, and as we know, Hoshi is the leader of the performance team. And also another way to remember is that this character is also the first character in Hoshi's family name, which is Kwon. So the next character is this one, which is Neon, which is an N sound. It's really similar to N in the English language, so giok is a mixture between G/K, and we don't really have that in English, but this one is like a really really similar to the N we have in English, and we're going to assign this character to Jonkan. I had to split his name in two because it's too long to write on the board, and we're giving this character to Jonkan because Jonkan likes to nap, he likes to sit down a lot, so it kind of looks a bit like a chair. And also this character appears twice in Jonkan's name, so at the end of his last name Yoon and obviously at the end of Jonkan. So the next character is Digut, which is a D kind of slash T sound, and we're going to assign it to the member DK or Dokyeom. So obviously this character is the first character in his stage name Dokyeom, but there's also another reason why this character is assigned to him, because from the side this kind of looks like someone's mouth if they're laughing, and DK laughs quite a lot. So this is why this character is assigned to him. However, it also kind of looks like a bit like a duck's bill, the beak on a duck. So that's another good way to remember it, because obviously duck begins with a D as well. But remember, it's a D slash T sound. So the next consonant is called Ril, and it's this weird kind of S-shaped character. However, it's not an S sound, it's an R slash L sound. So this sound does not exist in the English language, we don't have it, but it is like a mixture between these two, and it's probably one of the harder characters to pronounce, but you'll get there eventually. And we're gonna assign this character to the 8. For what reason? No real reason, apart from the fact my friend photoshopped his head onto a snake because the character kind of looks like a snake. That's the reason we're going with. The next character is Mium, which is this one, this little box, and it's an M sound. It's the same M as in English, so you should have no problem. It's the first character in Mingyu's name, which is why we're assigning this character to him to help you remember it. And it also looks a bit like an open mouth, so if you remember mouth, M, Mium. This box. The next character is this one, which is B up, and it is a B sound, but it can also sometimes lean towards sounding like a P sound. And if you look, it kind of looks like rabbit ears or bunny ears, which begins with a B, and also it's the first character in Sungkwan's family name, which is Bu. So the next character is this one, which is Shiot, which is an S sound. It's the same S in the English language. So we're gonna give this character to Eskoops, but as you can see, his name begins with an S. It's the same sort of sound, and it's also the first character in his real name Sungchul, and also the first character in 17 when you spell it in Korean. So the next character is this one. This round one looks a bit like an O, but it isn't. It's pronounced as Eung, which is a bit of a weird one, and it's this NG sound. However, it's not always an NG sound. A lot of the time it's actually silent. So we'll get into this properly later on when we get to the members' names and we go through the structure of syllables and like how you write them. But essentially every single syllable in the Korean alphabet has to start with a consonant. However, when you say them, there'll be some words that don't start with a consonant, and essentially this is a placeholder to be like, this is a consonant at the start of a syllable, but it's not pronounced. You don't say it when it's at the start. However, if it's at the end of a syllable, you do say it. It'll make more sense later on in the video after we've done the vowels and everything else. So just memorize it for now, but it actually occurs twice in Wonwoo's name. However, both times in Wonwoo's name, you'll see there's no NG sound, so it's silent both times it's used. However, if you are pronouncing this with the NG sound, it's the same as the ending to the word thing in English. So the next character is Jiut, and it's a J sound usually, but it can sometimes sound like a CH sound. And there's two kind of ways to write it, but a lot of the other characters there's only really one way to write it. But with this one there are more than one way to write it. So when you type in Korean this character, this is what will usually come up on the keyboard. So if you're reading some Korean online, you'll probably see this character. However, some people, I'm one of these people, I prefer to write it when I'm writing by hand. I write it like this one, but you need to know both of them because everyone has a different preference over which one they want to write. So we're going to assign this character to Joshua because his name begins with a J both in English and in Korean. His Korean name, if you don't know, is Jisoo. The next character is this one, which is Chiot, which is a CH sound, and it's the same kind of CH sound you get in England. So again, like Jiut is written in two different ways. This is what you'll get when you type it out, and some people will handwrite it like this. I prefer this one, but again, you need to know both because everyone will write it differently. So we're going to assign this character to June because he's one of the Chinese members of 17, and you pronounce this character the same way you would say China in English with that CH sound. I kind of felt like it sounded a bit like Donald Trump then. China, the way you would say China. And also June is on the performance team, and this word here means dance. You can see the character at the top, this means chum, so it has that CH sound. So the next character is Kyuk, and we are actually going to assign this to ourselves, the carrots, the unofficial members of 17, because it begins with a K. So anytime, for example, you're on Weverse and you see a member write a post that has carrot in it, it's going to start with this character. It's a hard K sound like in English. So whereas the first consonant we looked at, that gyok sound, was a mixture between G and K, this is a hard K sound. So the next character is this one, which is Tiut, which is a hard T sound. And we're assigning this character to Dino because he is on the performance team. This is the Konglish, which is Korean English for team, and it starts with the T. And this letter also features in the teen part of 17 when you write it in Korean. So before, when we had DK's letter, which was kind of a mix between D and T, it was kind of treading the line between the two letters. This one is a hard T sound. The next character is this one, which is Piup, which is a hard P sound like at the start of the word piano, which is the character we're going to assign to Uji. I don't actually know if he can play piano, but we all know he's 17's composer, primary composer and songwriter. Not that the other members don't do it, but he is like the primary one, the one who does it the most. So hence why we're assigning him this character. So this one is a hard P, so if you remember back to the character we gave Sungkwan, which was Biup, it was a B/P sound. This one is a hard P sound, not slightly B, it's a hard P, whereas Biup isn't. So the final consonant in the Korean alphabet is this one, which is here. I'm not actually sure that's how you say it, I've never heard anyone else ever say this before, but it's a hard H sound, and we're assigning this letter to Vernon because his Korean name is Hansel. This is how you would spell it, but it's the same way you pronounce H, like in my name Hazel, the same way in the word hat or horse. It's like a normal H sound we have in English. And it also kind of looks like the character is wearing a hat. And if you've watched enough 17 videos, Vernon generally seems to be wearing a hat of some kind. However, it is written in two ways. I feel like most people write it like this from what I've seen, but I've also seen people write it like this. My friend actually writes it like that, and I always think it looks really, really weird. I prefer this one, but again, you need to know both because everyone will have their preference. Okay, so that was all of the consonants, so now we're going to move on to the vowels, and we're not going to assign any of the members to the vowels just because probably get you confused if we're assigning them a consonant and a vowel, and there are more vowels, and there are quite a lot of vowels as well. However, if it makes it easier for you, feel free to go on ahead and pick one of your favourite groups or several favourite groups to assign the vowels to. Honestly, the vowels are pretty easy to learn, and you'll see why when I get into them in a minute, but if it helps you, assign them another group to help you out. However, I would recommend picking a group with more members in, something like NCT or IZ*ONE or Luna, as opposed to maybe, I don't know, Red Velvet, because there's only 5 of them. So it might just be easier to pick a bigger group or several smaller groups if you don't like any of the bigger ones. So these are the first 2 vowels I'm going to show you. This one is A, pronounced like that, A. So this one is A and this one is Ya. So you can see the only difference between them is this one has an extra line. So the rest of the vowels are going to follow this pattern. You're just going to add an extra line to put the Y on the front of it. It's really, really basic. However, one thing I will say with the vowels and just generally in Korean, everything is phonetically consistent. In English, things aren't phonetically consistent. You just have to learn the word the way it's supposed to be pronounced. You can't always tell from the word alone if you're a foreigner, whereas in Korean, every single time you see this, it will always be A sound. It won't be any other variation of A, like A. It will always be an A sound. So it's really not tricky at all. So this one is A and this one is Ya. The hardest thing, you've just got to remember which way it points for which vowel. The next 2 are O and Ya, and again it's just an extra line for that Y sound. And this just sound in general, I really struggled with it at first because I was like, it's kind of like an O sound but not quite an O sound because there's another character for the O sound. So I didn't quite understand it. So my friend who was teaching me at the time, she said, "You've seen Korean dramas, right?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I have." And she said, "Yo, in a Korean drama, when someone receives some surprising news, everyone will go, oh, in surprise." It's that sound. If you've seen a Korean drama, this is the sound of this character. It's that oh in surprise. So these are the next 2, and these 2 are horizontal. So A and O were both vertical. these ones are horizontal, so this is O and this is U. Pretty self-explanatory. And these are the next two, which are the opposite of that one, so this is oo and this is u, so it points down instead of pointing up, and again an extra line for the y sound. So these are the next two, we're back to vertical, so this one is e and this one is ye. Sometimes I hear them mixed up with the next vowels I'm going to show you, which is a and ye. So I do find this one kind of tricky, but it's still used a lot, so you need to know it. So these are the next ones. This is A and this is Ye, and you can see the second line is kind of like inside the character this time instead of sticking out on the outside. And I haven't actually ever heard this one used before when I've been studying. I've never actually seen it written down before. But this one I hear a lot, and you probably heard it too even without knowing it, because at this point you probably know what I love you in Korean is. It's saranghae. It's this kind of A sound. You kind of know the sound. It's not too tricky to pronounce even though we don't really use it in English. It's quite easy to say. And these are the two final vowels in Korean. This is E and this is So this one is really easy. It's usually romanized as a double E or as an I sometimes. But this one is a bit trickier since this sound does not exist in English. It's just not a thing in English. So I will leave below a video talking about how to pronounce it. However, the best tips I've kind of like heard for pronouncing this character is that when you say it, try and make your mouth look the same as this character. So try and make your lips kind of straight, so it's like like that. However, we don't have the sound in English like I said before, so it's not the easiest one to say, so you really need to practice this one. So before we get onto the combined vowels, I'm just going to quickly go over, now we've got the vowels down, I'm going to go over that use of the eung character. So we have two Korean syllables here. They don't particularly mean anything, at least I don't think so. So this one is ah and this one is ang. They don't really mean much like I said. So this, as we can see, it's that ah vowel we've just learned, and if this ah vowel is coming at the start, if you want to start a syllable with the character ah, you have to put the eung consonant there. You don't say anything, you don't make an ng sound then you say the a. It's absolutely silent when it comes at the start. However, if it comes at the end, then it does make a sound. So this one is silent, but you pronounce this one. Okay, so up next are my absolute favourite, which are combined vowels. So this first one is wa and this second one is way. So the way it works, so we're using first of all this eung, so it's silent here because it's at the start of the syllable, you don't pronounce it, so it's silent, don't worry about it, but you need to write it when you're writing just vowels on their own, so just get into the habit of it now. So it has these two vowels next to each other like this. So this bottom one is an O and this one next to it is an A. So when you say oa quickly together, it kind of makes this wa sound. Same with this one, so there's an O on the, so it's O sound on the bottom with the A sound next to it, oe. And when you say them together, oe, it kind of makes this way sound, which also, by the way, congratulations, you just learnt a word, because way is the Korean for why. So these are a bit tricky to get to grips with. It took me a while to learn them, and honestly I've kind of forgotten them a little bit since I don't see them a great deal, but you really need to know them. So I'm going to write out the rest and quickly go through them with you. So this one is a combination of O and E said together, oi, like that. And this one is a combination of oo and ah, which creates this wa sound, which is actually what is used in Wonu's name. So there aren't, so if you noticed before when we did the consonants, there is no W. This is where they get the W's from, because it usually starts with a combined vowel. So this one is a combination of oo and e, which said together make this ue sound, which is this one. And then this one is oo and e, which when said together, ui, make a wee sound like Nintendo Wii, that kind of Wii. And the final one is this one, which is a combination of the sound from before that we don't have in English and the e sound. So it ends up being like wee. I always kind of sound French when I say it, my friends make fun of me for it. So like I said at the start of the video, don't listen to me for your pronunciation guide for this. My Korean speaking leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, so that was all the combined vowels, and I know that they're a little bit tricky. I really struggle with them. So the consonants are fairly easy, vowels, normal vowels are fairly easy, but the combined vowels, they really got me, but they're used a lot, so you need to know them. There definitely are some that are used more, for example like wa and way, I see those all the time, but some of the others I've never seen past learning them. I've never actually seen them in the words I know, but you still need to know them all. But that part, that might take you a while. So if you're feeling bad that you can't learn the combined vowels quicker, please don't. Please don't, they are kind of tricky to get to grips with. So the next thing we're going to talk about is like the syllable structure in terms of how you actually write syllables in Korean. Okay, so a board full of random boxes. We're going to talk through all of them, and these are all the different ways to structure syllables in Korean, and it just depends how many characters are in the syllable. So this is the first one, and this is only when you have 2 characters, but it's only for a vertical vowel. So the vertical vowels were a, ya, o, yo, e, things like that. The vowels that stand up like this, that are vertical, and you have the consonant first and then you have the vertical vowel, and they stand next to each other like this. The second type is for the horizontal vowels. So these are the vowels that are o, yo, u, u, and the that straight one that no one knows how to pronounce outside of South Korea. So you put them inside of this one, so the consonant will go on top and that horizontal vowel underneath. So when you read this one first, and then this one, and this one you read the top one first and then the one underneath it. However, those are just for syllables with 2 characters in them. What happens if you have a character with more than 2 syllables in them? Then if it's a horizontal vowel, it will go into this structure, so you'll have the consonant on top, then the vowel, and then another consonant on the bottom, and you'll read it from top to bottom the same as this one. However, this one is for when you have a vertical vowel. So the first consonant will go in here, then your vowel, and then the second consonant in here, and you'll read this consonant, then this vowel, and then the consonant on the bottom. And finally we have this one, which is just for vertical vowels. You won't get horizontal vowels with like 4 sections. So this first box will be a consonant, then a vowel, then a consonant again, and usually a final consonant in this box that will feed into whatever syllable comes next. And you read this one first, then this one, and then finally this one. I'm aware that didn't make a lot of sense, so I'm going to clarify it now by writing out the names of the members of 17, which will hopefully first of all show you how you put everything together that you've learned in terms of how to write it, how to pronounce it, and the structure of how you're going to write it. So we'll start off going in age order with S coups. So this full thing says S coups, and as you can see, the first character is not the S consonant. The S comes in here, and this whole section, this is the S part. So this is silent, this is the S sound, this is the S, and this is the sound. So this altogether is S, like that. So it's not just a straight that on its own, this altogether is making just the S sound we have in English. This part is the coop sound. So this is the K, this is the U, this is that B up, which is the mix between a P and a B, and you'll know when this is romanized, it's spelt with a P instead of a B, and then we have the S with the sound underneath, so Coops. So I heard S Coops was thinking of changing his stage name to just Coops, so if he goes ahead with it, it will just be this part, but right now this is his entire stage name. So this says Sungchul, which is S Coops' real name, so we have the S on the top, the sound in the middle, and it ends with the Eung sound, which here does take the place, which here is pronounced like the NG because it comes at the end of a syllable. And as you can see, this is a horizontal vowel, so this goes down horizontal, so you read it sung like this, goes from S all the way down to the NG. Whereas this part of his name is the chol, the second syllable, because the O sound is a vertical vowel, you read it this way instead. So this is a CH, this is the O, and this is the real. So Sung Chol all together. So up next is Jongkan, and this is both his stage name and his real name. So this is the J sound, and it's kind of pronounced a bit like a CH. Then we have the O, and then we have the NG, which again here is pronounced like an NG because it's at the end of the syllable. And then we have the H, the A, and the N, which is Han. So Jonghan. So up next is Joshua, and this one's a bit different because it's an English name, not a Korean name. So this is the J, and then it's the O. Then this is the S, S and this is the U sound. Now as you know, there's no Y in Joshua. However, when the S is put next to any of the vowels that has the extra letter to make it a Y, it becomes a sh sound. However, because of that rule, this is instead pronounced as shu. And then this last part is just a on its own, so all together, Joshua. Joshua. So this says Jisoo, which is Joshua's Korean name. So this is the J/CH sound. This is the E sound, which in Jisoo is usually romanized as an I. Then we have S on top with U on the bottom. Jisoo. Jisoo. Up next we have June, and it's a really short one-syllable name. We have the J on top, then it's the U sound, and then it's the Neon on the bottom. So because this is a horizontal vowel, it goes down, you read it downwards. So altogether, June. So we're gonna skip a few members and go straight to Wonu. I'll explain why I've skipped some. So this is how you write his name, and it looks a bit weird. Now we know these are both silent and not actually W's. So this is that wa sound with the neon on the bottom, and this is the u sound. So again, this is the wa and the n, so one, and this alone is u, so wonu, which kind of does sound like one woo instead with a W. So there is a similar thing with Woozi's name, or actually it's pronounced Uji. So Woozi is romanized with a Z, but there are no Zs in Korean. So when you want to use a Z, you usually replace it with this J sound. And also, like we said, there are no Ws. So this part is just U, and this is G. So Woozi isn't really called Woozi, he's called Uji. The final name I'm gonna go over with you is Vernon's. Now, as you'll remember when we went over the characters, there is no V in the Korean alphabet, so his name is spelt with the B up character, that B. But when you kind of say it all together, Vernon kind of sounds a bit like a V. So his name is actually spelt with a B, not a V, because they don't have V's in Korean. So my middle name, Victoria, if you were going to spell it in Korean, it would probably also start with the B up character as well. So this is the B/P sound, which is taking the place of the V. This is the O sound, so bo on its own. This is a neon, then an O, and then another neon, so non. None. So like I said, that definitely was not all of the members of 17 that I wrote out. I just picked a few to show you how to do it. So what I'm going to do is put a slide on the screen that has the rest of the members' names written down. They're all going to be numbered. So I want you to pause the video and have a go at it yourself, and the answers will be right at the bottom of the description box. So click show more on the description box and scroll all the way to the bottom to find the answers to the questions to check if you were right or not. So I hope that was helpful in helping you to kickstart your Korean learning journey. I know a lot of people seem to want to learn Korean after getting into K-pop a bit, so feel free to reassign any of the characters to members from different groups who you might prefer. This doesn't have to be a 17 thing. It can be a BTS, EXO, Monster X, ITZY thing. That would probably be harder with ITZY since there's only 5 of them. You can use a mixture of groups to do this. You don't just have to stick with one, but because there are 13 members in 17, it does kind of make it easier. So if your next question is where to next, so I've learnt Hangul, where do I go to next? I would then point you in the direction of an amazing website called Talk to Me in Korean. This video was not sponsored by them. They don't know I exist, but I've been using it for ages now, and they are great for Korean learners. The majority of the resources on the website are free. You can of course choose to pay for some extras. For example, they sell some really good books on the store that I have a few myself and I do recommend to you. But if you don't have the money to spend on Korean resources, that's completely fine. You don't need any money to use this website. You can sign up for free with an email, create a password, and you can access literally years worth of podcasts from beginner level all the way up to expert level. So I will leave their website linked down below. They also have a YouTube channel which goes into pronunciation of certain things, so I will leave that linked down below, as well as any resources that I have used to help me learn Korean over the past few years. So yeah, that was all for today. You better have a good day. That was a threat. I hope you all stay safe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!